Okay, now for these 2 weeks, we will cover the fourth Noble Truth. And first, a very quick revision of the first 3 Noble Truths. Now, the first Noble Truth teaches us that in life we cannot avoid suffering or dukkha. For practice to bear fruit, we have to first understand the suffering. Here we are dealing with mental suffering here, not physical suffering. To be free from the suffering, we have to recognize where it comes from and how it operates in our lives, and how this attachment to craving causes dukkha. And only when there is true understanding will there be real happiness. We're not talking about the kind of happiness that we get from sense pleasures, but a happiness that arises from not wanting anything. A happiness that exists because we are at peace with whatever happens, good or bad. Now, so essentially, the fourth Noble Truth is about cultivating the wisdom, or paniya as it's known in Pali, to enable us to really know and see for ourselves the true nature of mind and body. So more wisdom means less ignorance. Less ignorance means less attachment to craving. And that means less suffering. And we cultivate the wisdom through a set of conditions, which we have the power to develop and to nurture. Okay, what is that? The Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, the Buddha laid out these conditions in the systematic structure in this Noble Eightfold Path. And these 8 factors fall into 3 different groups known as the threefold division or threefold training. Now, this Noble Eightfold Path forms the framework for all of the Buddha's teachings. You don't have to read. It was mentioned in his first discourse, and which was delivered to his first 5 disciples. And it was also mentioned in the Buddha's last discourse to the wanderer Sabbadānam. Okay, over here you only hear, is there a true ascetic? The ascetic here refers to an enlightened person with the 4 categories, referring to the 4 stages of enlightenment. So how does this Noble Eightfold Path work? Do we have to practice the Buddha's teachings in this order, all the way from right view down to right concentration? And how does this set of 8 conditions help us to cultivate wisdom and eliminate ignorance? Okay, to answer these questions, we will look at 4 areas. First, the 8 path factors. Now, we look at the standard definitions and the important points for each of the 8 factors, like what the training means for us and why, and then we look at how they relate to one another. Now, in this section on the threefold training, we take a broader view of the training involved and how each division helps us in our spiritual development and their interdependence. Now, the third section is about the middle path. A lot of people know what the middle path is, but do you really? Okay, there's actually a lot more to it than what we think it is. And what can we learn from here? And we will then consolidate what we learned in these 3 sections before going back to look at the 4 Noble Truths as a whole. So these are the 4 areas which we will explore. And first, the 8 path factors. So it'll be a revision for most of you. Okay, right view. And what is right view? Knowledge with regard to stress. Stress here refers to suffering, dukkha. With regard to the origination of stress, the cessation of stress, and the way of practice leading to the cessation of stress. Now, there is more than one definition of right view in the suttas, but it is normally explained in terms of the 4 Noble Truths. Now, in this definition, it basically refers to ideas, beliefs, and values that are in line with the truth of reality. And since the Buddha's teachings are aimed at realizing these truths, right view also refers to views that are aligned with his teachings. Okay, so right view as the first path factor is intellectual right view. It acts like a map, a GPS, shows us what direction to take, how to get there, and what to avoid. Okay, so this intellectual right view at the beginning gives us saddha of faith, okay, and it's like confidence, trust in the Buddha's teachings. And this is a necessary quality in our practice, because only then will we have the confidence to follow the Buddha's guidance. We are willing to put aside all other views and practice only what he teaches. And this means, okay, initially, its most important elements are confidence in the human capacity for enlightenment. Okay, this means recognizing that our efforts and our actions do bring results, which is what the law of karma is all about. Okay, law of karma, what is it? Cause and effect. In other words, action and result of action. It means taking full responsibility for what we are right now and the suffering we have, knowing that we can change and that we can get out of the suffering. So this right view guides us through the path, so it stays with us throughout and comes to completion at the end of the path as right view of self, namely not self. And how we view things determines how we relate to them, which shapes our intention. So this is how right view is linked to right thought, also known as right intention. So what is right intention? Right thought. Thoughts of renunciation, which means letting go of the lasting greed. Thoughts of non-ill will, that counters aversion. And thoughts of harmlessness that counter cruelty. We need this path factor to put what we know into practice. Now, you can claim to know all about Buddhism. You can participate in all the Buddhist rites and rituals, but without right thought or right intention, you are just a Buddhist who is very rich in faith and theory. That's all. Okay, sadly, there are many of such Buddhists around. So this is one reason right thought is found at the beginning of the Yogya. Can you mute yourselves? Thank you. Now, through these intentions of letting go or avoiding negative thoughts, right thought also forms the bridge between wisdom and morality, right? Okay, this is what we chant every week. And right thought is the karma making stage. Okay, intention, I tell you, is karma. Intending, one does karma by way of body, speech, and intellect. Okay, we have a series of 6 Dhamma bites just on karma and rebirth. We'll most probably revise that sometime either the end of next year or 2023. And intention is associated with what? Decision or choice you have to make between 2 or more things, a plan, idea, or strategy, an aim or goal, or the will or determination to do something. Okay, take the bull by the horns. That's what we all learn in school, right? The idiom that means to act resolutely. And as long as it is a thought that guides our mental, verbal, and physical actions, it is intention. Now, intention, you have wholesome intention, you have unwholesome intention, and you have one that's neither wholesome nor unwholesome. Okay, and only thoughts okay, with moral weight. That means the wholesome ones and the unwholesome ones create karma. In a nutshell, right thought is one that is in line with right view. Okay, we move on. Right speech. Now, in this standard definition, the Buddha did not even teach us how to speak skillfully. He just tells us not to lie, slander, speak harshly, or engage in idle chatter. Why? Because abstinence or refrain, which means holding back an intention and letting it go instead of acting on it, is in itself a skillful act. So abstinence alone actually can stop you from causing other people harm. Okay, but this letting go is not easy. As we all know, right? How difficult it is not to tell white lies. I'm very sure all of us have at one stage or another in our life encountered this kind of situation. Am I correct? Yeah. Also very difficult to refrain, okay, from telling someone an unpleasant truth about someone else because of self-righteous indignation. Now, no matter how righteous you are, this is still considered divisive speech. Very difficult to not retaliate when someone is screaming at you. But perhaps the most difficult of the four, idle chatter. Why? Because it usually involves gossiping about other people. So right speech is not easy. We have a total of 9 Dhamma Bites sessions just on right speech alone. In fact, when you put the Buddha's teachings into practice, you will notice a lot of what you say is actually unskillful and unnecessary. So apart from avoiding unskillful speech, the Buddha also gave discourses on what is considered skillful speech. And all of us should memorize this. Skillful speech must be true, beneficial, timely, gentle, and done with metta, with goodwill. So right speech has 2 sides to it: avoidance, performance. Okay, just because we can speak does not automatically mean we have the skill of speech. Okay, but sadly, this path factor is usually not given the attention it deserves. Now, at its most basic, right action refers to abstinence from killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. These 3 are actions that the Buddha singled out as always harmful. So generally, right action refers to any action that does not harm self or others. So it does not have to be confined to only these 3 activities, right? So wherever we are in our waking moments, we are always performing one action or another. So right action can be done at any time, okay, whether we are doing housework, if we're exercising, or we are working. So by performing an action carefully and mindfully, we become aware of our intentions and our views. Okay, a lot of us view our job as something unpleasant, something we have no choice but to do in order to earn money. Okay, we can train ourselves to look at it differently. Work is a means to be useful and purposeful, no matter what kind of work one does. It is a means of paying full attention to the body and knowing its actions, its movements. It is an opportunity to help, to be of service, to gain skills, and to show love by working for others. Not easy. How many of us actually have passion for our paid jobs? How many of you actually wake up in the mornings and then can't wait to get back to work? I mean, can't wait to get back to work, not to clear your work, but because you're so passionate about it. I remember that time when I was working quite some time ago. I would wake up every Monday morning with heart palpitations, just thinking of the mountain load of work that I have to do in the office. Okay, I'm sure some of you share that same worry as me. Okay, so it is not easy to like one's work, but it really does help, okay, to think of it as something that, okay, that pays you so that you can do something good with your money. Dana, okay, to help others in need. You're doing it because you're acquiring a skill. Okay, you're stimulating your mind, and you use this opportunity, okay, to get money to share with your loved ones. All right. Okay, next, right livelihood. This is the most quoted definition for right livelihood, where the Buddha told his lay followers not to trade in weapons, living beings, meat, intoxicants, and poisons. The reason is obvious, right? They cause harm to others, and in doing so, we commit bad karma. That means harming ourselves as well. If we go on the principle of not harming self and others, right, a wrong livelihood is not restricted to just these 5 traits. So it's any job that harms, exploits others, or constantly brings up unwholesome states in others or oneself is considered wrong livelihood. And the Buddha did not impose these guidelines on everyone, okay? Only his lay followers. He was very careful when dealing with this topic because there were people who were stuck in wrong traits, but were unable to change occupations due to various reasons. Okay, and right livelihood is not just about the type of occupations. It is also how a person conducts himself while earning a living. So in the Mahamangala Sutta, the Buddha listed accomplishment in learning, skill in one's craft as a blessing. And in this discourse, in the Great 40 discourse, okay, he defined unskillful actions like scheming, cheating, or belittling someone as wrong livelihood. Now, there are also other discourses on this topic. I apologize. I have my dog here in the room with me. He refuses to go out. Okay, advocating hard work, okay, and showing how to cultivate a harmonious relationship between employer and employee. So do you actually see a recurrent theme or mantra in right speech, right action, and right livelihood? What do you think the mantra is? Do not harm self, do not harm others. Please remember this if you can't remember anything else. Okay, and what bhikkhus is right effort? It's a bhikkhu that generates desire for the non-arising of unreasoned, evil, wholesome states, generates desire for the abandoning of a reasoned, evil, unwholesome states, generates desire for the arising of unreasoned, wholesome states, and generates desire for the maintenance of a reasoned, wholesome states. Now, this is right effort. This is the standard definition. So evil, unwholesome states, and wholesome states refer to our thoughts and emotions. Now we look at the 4 points one by one. Now this is perhaps the hardest, keeping unwholesome states from arising. Most of the time, we only notice the unskillful thoughts and emotions that have already arisen. So what can we do? We practice to overcome them. So we can also practice cultivating skillful thoughts and emotions, and we work at maintaining and developing them further. Remember, Xu Feng mentioned right effort in the opening speech about forgiveness. He generates enthusiasm, tries, makes an effort, exerts the mind, and strives. This is a sentence that the Buddha applied. Okay, he kept repeating this for each of the 4 right efforts. This means that we have to persevere. We have to be steadfast, we be constant, and we have to keep cultivating the enthusiasm to practice. And this enthusiasm is chanda, which we saw in the second noble truth. It is wise wanting that can be generated from any of these 4. Number 1, faith. Number 2, wise reflection. Number 3, your desire for the truth. And number 4, knowing the value and importance of what you are doing. And chanda is what gives us the inspiration, the push that sets the ball rolling and keeps it rolling. The Buddha said that right effort is needed to change wrong view to right view, wrong thought to right thought, and so on. This means that right effort provides a constant support for the other 7 path factors. Just think about it. Is there any way you can practice Dhamma if you don't have the enthusiasm or interest in it and you don't bother to put in effort? No way. Now, always remember that we have to practice for the sake of the practice itself, not for the sake of results. If we focus on results, we are just focusing on our own craving and our own wanting. And that is not right effort anymore. Let me just tell you a personal experience of mine. Every time when I sit down and meditate, I have subtle craving. In fact, most of us will have it. We sit down, we always go like, oh, it'd be nice, you know, if I can get piti and sukha, if I can enter samadhi, you know, if I can get rid of some of the aches and pains in my body. That kind of wanting is very subtle and it will keep coming to us, even though we try to keep them at bay. So for a period about 2-3 years ago, I was not meditating well at all. Every time I sit down, okay, I get out and I'll go, sigh. But I told myself I still have to keep at it every day because that's what right effort is about. Yeah. Then we made a trip to Taiwan with my family, my parents. And I was feeling quite poorly during the trip because I was feeling a lot of pain, aches and pains. And one day, Xu Feng told me, why don't, before dinner, why don't you just go and lie down for a while? I said, yeah, why not? I said, I'll lie down and I feel like it. I'll do a bit lying down meditation, but let's see how it goes. So I was not putting any pressure on myself or not putting any expectations. Okay, and strangely enough, less than 5 minutes after I closed my eyes to rest, I actually entered samadhi, just like that. Okay, I did not even try. So what does it show you? So even though you have bad meditations every day, you are still building the causes and conditions for the other path factors to come up because you are putting in right effort. Okay, tell yourself at the back of your mind, you may still have all these expectations about wanting your meditation to be good. Okay, but you just have to keep reminding yourself that no, I am not going to think about it. All right. Now, next, we move on. We go to right mindfulness. First and foremost, what is mindfulness? Now, the word mindfulness has several meanings and functions. The most common, just give me a minute, I'm trying. The most common is present moment awareness. The word sati actually means remembering. That means you recollect things that support practice. Is mindfulness the same as right mindfulness? Okay, we shall see. And what bhikkhus is right mindfulness? Here, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating body as body, feelings as feelings, mind as mind, phenomena as phenomena, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having removed covetousness and displeasure in regard to the world. Okay, this is again the standard definition. These 4 factors are usually referred to as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. We will first go through in brief what contemplation of these 4 mean, what does it involve, and then we see what this part means. Okay, after that, we will have a basic understanding of what right mindfulness is. Now, contemplation of body first. This one comes first because it is the easiest to see form. It means contemplating breathing, postures, activities, the 32 parts of the body, the 4 elements of earth, wind, fire, and air, and the body's nature to die and then decay. And all these exercises, they help ground us, okay, ground us in the awareness of the body instead of being carried away by our thoughts and our emotions. Now, these 3 contemplations help us to decondition our strong identification with the body. And this deconditioning is important because the more we identify with the body, the more attached we are to this body. Which means what? More attachment means more suffering, right? Now, contemplation of feelings as feelings deal with both physical sensations and the mental events of the thoughts and the emotions. We contemplate the feeling that arises with each moment of experience through the 6 sense spaces, whether it is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. So, for example, we hear a song, or when we smell food, or when a thought or emotion arises, there will be a feeling. So we just observe that quality or tone of the experience. So if it's a pleasant feeling, we just observe. Okay, so we know pleasant feeling is like this. Okay, just watch. Same with unpleasant feelings and even the neutral ones. So what we are doing here is actually training ourselves to be more aware of that feeling, the nature of the feeling, and how they actually color or condition the mind. Okay, contemplate mind as mind. We are looking at mental experiences. We contemplate how the mind is at any given moment, whether there is the presence or absence of greed, hatred, and delusion, whether the mind is contracted or distracted, whether the mind is exalted or not, surpassed or not, concentrated or not, liberated or not. So these 3 pairs refer to different levels of absorption in meditation, and a liberated mind is one that is temporarily or partly free from defilements due to insights or meditation. Okay, so we observe as well. Is our mind liberated? If it is, to what extent? So by observing this way, we have a very clear perception, okay, of the quality of our mind as it exists in the present moment. Okay, you keep changing, remember, everything changes. Okay, it doesn't mean when you have a liberated mind, even if it's partly liberated, it'll stay that way. Okay, we see which ones lead to happiness and should be cultivated, and then which ones lead to suffering and should be abandoned. Then we come to the 4th one. Phenomena means here mind objects or Dhamma. Dhamma refers to anything that's conditioned. Okay, it refers to, a Dhamma also refers to unconditioned. That's the Bali. It refers here to 5 categories of physical and mental experiences. We have the 5 hindrances, the 5 aggregates, 6 sense spaces, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths. Now let's look at an example of the 5 hindrances. Do you know what they are? First one, sense desire, ill will and hatred. sloth and torpor, worry and restlessness, and doubt. Now, in the case of these 5 hindrances, we perceive whether any of them are in the mind or not, how it makes us feel. We also perceive how we can prevent it from arising. That comes from reflection. How we can abandon a hindrance already present in the mind, how we can prevent it from arising again. Sounds familiar? This is right effort. So this is just one form of training, to note mindfully and immediately the arising of one of the hindrances is a simple but very effective method of countering these and any other defilements of the mind. Okay, there are various methods of contemplation that can be applied for the other categories as well. So by doing so, a brake is applied against the uninhibited continuance of unwholesome thoughts, and the watchfulness of mind against their recurrence is strengthened. So basically, in this section, the Buddha gives instructions and practical advice to help us overcome the obstacles in our Dhamma practice. And a lot of it is about getting rid of unwholesome states of mind and nurturing the wholesome ones. And it's very clear from here that the training on right mindfulness involves more than just being mindful. The Buddha tells us that all these 4 mental qualities, including mindfulness, are necessary for the practice of right mindfulness. So right mindfulness also means you have to be ardent. That means you have to apply sustained effort and perseverance. This is right effort. Okay, then you must be clearly comprehending. It's also translated as clearly knowing and fully aware. It is the ability to clearly understand what is taking place. This means we must know how to apply the Buddha's teachings. We start as theoretical wisdom. It also involves Dhamma investigation work, which is practical wisdom. So this is the wisdom part. And having removed covetousness, displeasure, regard of world, is samadhi, the qualities of stillness, composure, and unification of the mind. This is based on right concentration, which comes up next. So, in essence, right mindfulness is the development of a full, committed awareness of the present moment, in particular, the activities of the body, the tone of experience in the form of both physical sensations and mental feelings, the state of our mind, as well as the physical and mental phenomena. So our job is to recognize, to observe, to take note of these physical and mental events, using these 4 qualities of mind until their true nature and characteristics are brought to our awareness. Okay, so this is right mindfulness. What we have covered here is we're just touching the surface. Okay, all the details will come in the Dhamma Bite specifically for this topic, which will come in due course. Oh, okay, we have come to the last factor, which is right concentration, which is defined in terms of the 4 levels of absorptions, or what we call the jhanas. Here, bhikkhus secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought and examination, and as rapture and happiness born of seclusion. Now, I'm sure you recognize some of the terms here. What is thought? Thought is vitakka, examination is vichara, rapture is piti, happiness is sukha. So what is shown in this first, this paragraph is the first jhana. Now, put it in table form so it's easier to see the 4 jhanas and the factors. Notice that I only put the Pali words in. This is to avoid confusion, because for each of the factors, especially for piti and sukha, there are many different English translations and sometimes they overlap, so it can be quite confusing. right? Now, this right concentration means the inner stability. That's what we're working towards. The inner stability, the clarity, the peace experienced in these levels of absorptions. And it makes it possible for us to see Dhamma and for wisdom to arise. Now, those of you who have attended previous Dhamma bites would have noticed that we try not to use the word jhana. Why? There are different interpretations of jhanas out there. A lot of controversy as well. But the truth is that even at one level, different people can have different experiences. So instead of getting fixated on the word jhana and which level we have attained, or what we experienced in each jhana, we just need to concern ourselves with these 4 factors. These 4 factors alone give us samadhi, which is what we need to investigate Dhamma and to get insights. So we have to remember that Buddha's teachings, as recorded in suttas, are not concerned about special experiences of puthujjanas, but are concerned about the noble way. Puthujjanas are unenlightened people, often referred to as worldlings in the suttas. That is why it is not essential to debate if puthujjanas can have high jhanas or other kinds of attainments. That is not important. Important to understand Dhamma. So we have to remember that right concentration is mentioned by the Buddha in discourse after discourse as the way and the means, but not as the goal. Okay, so right concentration serves as a tool for Dhamma investigation and insights. When our practice reaches maturity, the insights will be accompanied by right view. This will be the right view of liberation, the one responsible for eroding the 10 fetters. And once the fetters have eroded, they stay that way, it's permanent, okay? At the end, we come full circle to right view of self, which is not self. This circle doesn't mean that the 8 path factors should be developed one after another. Right view does come first, okay, when we embark on the path, because right view shows us what to do and how to do it. But in practice, all the 8 factors are linked, and each helps the cultivation of the others. Okay, we saw that in right mindfulness, yeah? Now let's look at an example. Way back to Jack. Now, Jack, remember, was jilted by his girlfriend, and then when he saw her with another man, he was seized by the impulse to kill that man. And fortunately, he recognized the unwholesome impulse in time. That requires right mindfulness. Okay, and right mindfulness in itself, as we've learned, includes elements of right effort, right view, and right concentration. Right concentration here doesn't mean that Jack has to be in samadhi at that time. Okay, he just needs to have the qualities that are cultivated in right concentration, which is the clarity and the stability of mind. Now, without this training in right concentration, if he doesn't meditate at all, okay, it is impossible for him to actually see the impulse clearly. And he may not, and he will be very easily influenced by his greed, hatred, and delusion. And you find it very much harder to hold back, if he can even hold back at all. Then Jack exercises the intention to abstain from the act of killing, and letting go of the unwholesome thoughts and emotions is also part of right effort. And why Jack knows what to do and how to do it is based on right view. And because of these 5 factors, Jack will not say or do anything that will break the first precept of killing. Right livelihood does not play an active role here, but it is developed as a component of morality, because how we conduct ourselves in our livelihood is also through speech and action, right? So this is what happens when the 8 noble path arises in Jack's mind. He abstains from a very unskillful action and gained peace of mind instead. So these 8 factors are interrelated and interdependent. Now that's why we sometimes present the Noble Eightfold Path as a spider web, because everything is linked. Development of one factor not only helps, but also comes together with the development of other factors. So similarly, neglecting to develop one factor adversely affects the other 7. Okay, that's why we cannot pick and choose which factor we want to cultivate. This is not a buffet. It is all or none. Okay, that is why some people feel that they are getting nowhere. They say, I sit down, I meditate. How come I don't see any progress? This is the time when you have to sit back and take stock. Okay, look back and see what other factors did you neglect, because you have to pay attention to every single one of them. And a lot of people have asked me, when I start, what do I do? Of course, the meditation part is important, but I always tell them this: when you start your practice, start with right speech. Okay, just doing right speech actually helps you to learn many, many things about the Buddha's teachings that relates to all the other path factors. And only when all the path factors are fully developed can we realize Nibbana. So the name of the path, Noble Eightfold Path, means the Eightfold Path of noble beings, or Eightfold Path leading one to become a noble being. Okay, so we stop here. And next week, we are going to look at the threefold vision, the middle way, and then we come back to look at the 4 noble truths as a whole.